So in this research, we used systematic methods to review pelvic floor muscle training smartphone applications. Essentially, if women can use smartphone applications to perform safe and effective pelvic floor muscle training, then this could make an important contribution to prevention and self-management of pelvic floor dysfunction. The question is, does it matter which app a woman uses? And you won't be surprised to know the answer is yes, it does. What we did was we used methods of systematic review adapted for reviewing apps, and we searched app stores for apps that met our pre-specified inclusion criteria, and you can find those in the abstract. We rated the quality of apps from the user perspective using the mobile app rating scale. And then we documented the quality of the exercise content in the apps using the consensus on exercise reporting template. Now, we expanded item 6 about motivation strategies using a behaviour change technique taxonomy. And then we applied the American College of Sports Medicine guidance to understand whether the exercise prescription in the app could possibly strengthen muscle or not. So we found 26 apps, and 8 of those had upgrades. So the upgrades are not shown on this diagram, that's why there's only 26. And note that's a correction to what's in the abstract. And so we assessed 34 apps in all because we assessed the base versions and the upgrade versions. 8 apps, and they're the ones in the central bit, overlapping from, they're available in the ones in the centre are the ones available in both Apple and Google Play. But the ones in colour are the ones that actually had sound exercise content. And all of these actually also scored really well for their behavioural support content and also their user experience. Now, what I've done here is just taken 3 of the best apps to use them as an example. And I've chosen these 3 because they're available on both Apple and Google or Android platforms. And what we can see is there's a wide variation in other things that are likely to matter to women who use apps, such as how much space this is going to take on their phone and how much it's going to cost them. Now, if good apps do exist, as it seems they do, how likely is it that women will find them when they do a search? So just before I left New Zealand, I searched New Zealand Google Play and New Zealand Apple app stores using 2 phrases, pelvic floor exercises and Kegel exercises. You can see in the column on the right, and I was using a laptop screen for my search. Most of those apps, those 3 there, don't appear as the first result in a search. In fact, some of them don't appear on the first page that I saw on my screen, and some of them actually don't appear at all. So essentially, pelvic floor muscle training apps containing exercise content do exist, but some of them don't have that. Women won't necessarily find the most effective apps based on what comes up first in their search. And unfortunately, these review findings are probably already out of date because, in fact, this is a fast-moving field and new pelvic floor muscle training apps become available all the time. What we have done is demonstrate a reproducible process for assessing apps in terms of the quality and the content. And so this process should be repeated, and it should be repeated by our professional societies and our healthcare organisations because we've got an essential role to play in assessing and recommending the best apps and updating those recommendations regularly and making sure we push out those recommendations via social media and other platforms to the women who will use them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time for questions. We have one there.
Hi, Julia Herbert from the UK. Thank you for a lovely presentation, Jean, and congratulations on the prize.
Thank you.
I just wondered if, in looking at the apps, a question was raised when I was presenting about new technology earlier on in the week, looking at the protection of personal data and whether apps are collecting information and how they use information.
Okay, so this wasn't one of the criteria we used, and unfortunately the mobile app rating scale, which is a sort of a more user perspective, didn't at the time include that. So it wasn't something we assessed, but I understand it's a very important thing to consider. And I haven't actually checked the full paper, but there's been another systematic review published in 2019. Eva, you might know, does it have that in it? The paper published in Female Pelvic Floor Medicine?
No, there is a recent systematic scoping review more about effectiveness.
Yeah,
so
but it doesn't look at privacy, no. So it's a very good question, and in fact that's another element that needs to be added to the process of assessing apps, is how do we go about protecting data from users.
Yeah, yeah.
We're more vulnerable, of course, when they're apps that include conversations between the user and somebody else as well. And none of the apps we included here, like we didn't include Squeezy CX, which is the clinician-patient interaction type app. These were only apps that women could use on their own without any interaction with another source.
Do you think
we have time for just one more quick question?
We need to distinguish the difference between those types of apps as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, one more, yes.
Yeah.
Short one.
Barry Bergmans, Maastricht, the Netherlands. Congratulations, for sure.
Thank you.
These were all apps in English, no?
Yes, it was one of our inclusion criteria. Because we were searching from New Zealand, we only used English language version apps, and that was because we only had the ability to assess them. I'm sorry, I'm only an English speaker.
For sure. And the other thing is that our group published last year, 2018, De La Torre, a systematic review on the apps that are available,
yes,
and all the things that are related to the quality of it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.